Hello, in this video we're going to look at using two microbits, a external OLED display, a button, a proximity sensor, some servo motors, all with the REKA breakout board, and using radio to talk to two microbits. At this stage I expect that you have watched my other tutorial videos, so you're already familiar with how to use most of these components. Let me give you a quick tutorial of how it works, and then I'll talk through the code. So on the LED screen right now, I can see a light level. If I push button A, it gets a light level from this microbit. So if I cover up this microbit, the light level will be low. And if I put it in a brighter environment, the light level goes up. If I push button B, I'm getting a temperature reading also coming from this microbit. Here I've got an external button I can push, and it should, there you go, send a signal to this microbit to show a heart. I can push the buttons on this microbit to control the servo motors on the other microbit. Lastly, if I plug in this proximity sensor, then when it senses an obstruction, it shows a cross on this microbit and plays a sound on this microbit. This is just demonstrating how these components could be used in your project work. Okay, let's have a look at the code. So firstly, let's look at how we controlled the LED screen showing the temperature. So this on the right here is the REKA breakout bit with everything attached to it. So what it's doing, when I push button A, it's making sure it clears the screen. It's radio sending number 1, and then that is triggering what happens on this microbit on the left. So when we set number 1, it's going to receive number 1, and then it's going to send back the light level. So when it receives a number, if that number is 1, it sends back the light level. So I've left this little pause here just to allow time for the microbits to talk to each other, for that signal to go all the way to one microbit and then it to send back the data. So then we show string light level and we show data. So data is a variable that I've made. Let's find where it is in here. Oh, down the bottom. So when it receives a number, it's going to check what that number is. I'll talk about all of this in a little bit. But if it's not 1, 2, 3, or 4, it's going to set data to receive number. So if it receives a number and it's above a number 4, it's setting that to a variable that I've called data. That allows me to check and put in the number what data is over here. So I push button A, it clears the screen, it sends number 1, this microbit gets number 1, sends the light level back as a number, and then with our short pause we show on the screen data, the light level that I've created as a variable. It's exactly the same for button B. We're clearing the screen. This time we're sending radio number 2. So if I look over here, radio number 2, we've got temperature. So it's still showing data, but this time data is the temperature. So hopefully that's relatively straightforward. What else have we got? So we've got a little more it could do, right? You're seeing that it's receiving numbers here. So on my other microbit, across the side here, I've got sending numbers. So if I push number A, it's sending number 1 from this microbit, the one on its own, back to the one in the REKA bit expansion board. And if we have a look, if it is on radio receive number, same thing, it checks. If that's number 1, it's going to move the servo motor. If it's number 2, it's going to move the servo motor. I didn't demonstrate this, but I can. If it's number 3, so if I push button A and B together, it turns on the lights down the bottom here. And if I send number 4, which is shake, it turns off the lights. So you can see how I've got all that going on just with button A, B together and shake, sending kind of numbers one way and sending numbers backwards and then doing something. It's this if statement that is critical to on radio received, creating this if statement, and then you can choose what to do with each of those numbers. The other ones that are interesting, this is the obstacle avoidance sensor, this one. We've got digital write pin 12, so if that equals 1, I've showed you how to use this, but this time we're sending radio number 4. So if we look on our other microbit, when it receives radio number 1, light level, 2, temperature, 3 is the icon for the heart. That was the button, I'll show you that. And then pin 4, if it receives number 4, it's playing that note. So yeah, like if you know how to use the obstacle sensor, just digital rating pin 1. If it's 0, there's no obstacle. If it's 1, there is an obstacle. And I'm also showing you an X on the screen here as well. And then pin 0, we've plugged our button here into the connection that lines up with pin 0. So I've got radio sender number 3 if pin 0 is pushed. So it might seem really complicated at first, but once you get your head around which numbers are being sent between microbits, and it's all to do with that if statement on radio received, you can do a whole lot. You can have these separated and kind of all the things that you could do on this, you can actually control it with this one, or you can send data in both directions. So hopefully that is helpful for you.